And yet everybody who was around at the time was like, even the people that, like, loads of people saying what a great movie it was. People older my sort of age and everything else. But so I suppose
I liked 71.
Yeah, I know a lot of people did, but for some reason,
I still have 71 on my to watch list on Amazon Prime. I don't know why I just can't get it in me to watch the film.
I think that's the trouble. I think that's the trouble is the time, isn't it? And there's so much. You got so much. It's like books, reading books. It's like there's just so much now.
Yeah, so much. There's a lot. There's a lot. So okay,
Sharon seems to manage it though. Sharon must be really well. She's pretty amazing, really. I'm sort of in awe of her sometimes. So
that's why I managed to watch one film in a week.
I'm still in awe of Sharon.
Yeah, that's because you were probably reading a book. However,
I was reading. Yeah,
you were reading a boc. However, I did not read a book. I have read websites, and Shaun hasn't even bothered reading anything that's written. So,
I actually have.
What?
Because
in that case, you're amazing. You meant to see all these things in the cinema, and you read something.
Yeah, I read a book about King John.
Oh,
King John was not a bad man.
Okay, anyway. Well, you actually okay. Anyway, so
anyway,
okay. I have absolutely no idea where the picture quiz has ended and where the film podcast has started. Right. I have absolutely no idea, but we're going to figure it out. So let me say hello.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that is this week. I don't know what we're doing this week. We're rambling around trying to figure out when our podcast starts. My name is Tosin. I am the host. I am based up in Bromsgrove, somewhere in the Midlands in the UK. Joining me, as always, on the Isle of Wight, a lovely little island of the south coast of England for all of our international listeners, is Sharon.
Hello.
And Shaun.
Hello. I don't know what's happened there.
Shaun is the ghost in the background.
Yeah. Shaun, if you're watching this on YouTube, Shaun is the guy. He's the ghost who is every now and then appearing. He doesn't look like John Hamm, but he's a ghost that's every now and then appearing in front of John Hamm, because we just finished doing our picture quiz where we tried to guess who. Name the film, name the actors in the picture. You'll find that also up on YouTube. So go have a look at that. Anyway, this week there's a possibility, because usually what happens is we go see 3 films in the cinema. We see 3 things at home on Netflix and Friends. We rate them all out of 5. We take an average of cinema, average of Netflix, and we say who has won this week. Sorry, hiccups. Where has the money been better spent this week? Now, this week, we have a possibility of 4. We have a possibility of 4 films in the cinema, or 4 things at home. And the question is, the challenge for us this week is, are we disciplined enough? Are we disciplined enough to give ourselves 5 minutes for each one of these things, review everything in 5 minutes? Because I think, one of these films, more than one of us has seen, so I think that's a 5 minutes out the window already. But we're going to try it. We're going to try it and see if we can get through these 8 films in the next hour and tell you who has won this week for the battle for eyeballs. Has it been Netflix or has it been cinema? So let us kick off first with cinema. What have we seen in cinema? Sharon, you fire away.
You fire away.
Okay. I have seen 2 films in the cinema this week. I saw A Jungle Cruise with my niece and my nephew, and I saw The Boys from County Hell as well.
Ooh. Okay, now I see. Okay, so I saw Jungle Cruise. That was my film of I say film of the week, not because I thought it was good, because it was the only film I got to see. So because I guess the film. So we got Jungle Cruise and we've got Boys from County Hell. I'm intrigued about that one. So Shaun, what did you see?
Okay, I saw Stillwater.
Yep.
I saw Stillwater, and there was a secret cinema showing which I took a punt on, and it happened to be Free Guy. So I've seen Free Guy, which I'm not sure has been released yet. I took a punt on it. I didn't have my my normal seat, so I was a little bit disappointed.
Okay, I'll tell you what. How about this? Seeing as Free Guy is not available on general release yet, how about we keep Free Guy for next week?
Cool.
Sound good?
Yeah. It's good. That's good. That's really good. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, but first of all, okay, so we'll keep the review of Free Guy, but tell us, Secret Cinema, how did that work? How did you get it in? How does that whole thing work?
I was looking, and funny enough, I was deciding between. I was looking on thing, and I was going to say the boys from the film that Sharon saw, and also there was one called like an online one, like I can't remember what it was called. So I was looking to watch something else, and then I just happened to see Secret Showing. I thought it was for the unlimited cards, but it wasn't. It was for general public Secret Showing. So I thought,
right.
And that was at 7:30, whereas the other ones were later. So I thought, I'll do the 7:30 one. I nearly called you, Sharon, but I thought it was a bit late, and I thought it would have been a bit mean to call you about 7:10.
So there was more than one showing of the secret film.
No. It was just that was the time it was on. So
cool. Okay, gotcha.
When I looked at the times, that it said 7:30. Whereas what's the one you saw, Sharon? The boys
from County Hal. That was only on at 9 o'clock at night. I think
9 o'clock. So that was a late one, and the other one I'm trying to think what it's called. Might be anyway. It was an online one. So
all right. You see, yeah. Sorry, Shaun. Carry on.
No. I'm just saying I can't think of the name of the film now. I might have to have a look and see what the other film was that I nearly saw, but that was on at like 8:40, so I just thought, I'll go and see one at 7:30.
I am really beginning to think that either Cineworld, because the cinema on the Isle of Wight that you guys go to is a Cineworld, either Cineworld deliberately gets a wider selection of films, or just that the Isle of Wight is a bit more arty than the View Cinema in Redditch, because the View. Because I've been looking for Stillwater. I've been like, oh yeah, that looks interesting. I want to see Stillwater. Boys from County Hell, I heard about that. I haven't seen a hair on the head of any of those films. There hasn't even been a whisper that those films are coming out. I was still thinking, oh yeah, maybe next week. But if they're already on the Isle of Wight, that means they're just not going to come to my local cinema. So I have to rely on what you guys say. But as Sharon says, usually when you guys review something, the likelihood I'm going to watch it is low. I'm like, well, that's been done. So
take that one off the list.
It's the like film, Shaun saw it, Sharon saw it, I've seen it.
The film was called. Oh dear, my phone's just gone down. The film I was gonna call was called. Come on. It was called Profile.
Never heard of it.
In cinemas. No, that's it. Well, that's what it's called. So Profile.
Never heard of it. Ugh, come on, View Cinema Redditch. Get your act together. The Isle of Wight is showing you up. But I'm hopeful that Free Guy is a big enough thing that I'll be able to watch it next week. Yeah. Now, Free Guy is one of those films that I feel like I could probably review from the trailer alone. But I'll wait. I'll hold judgment. I'll hold my prejudice and see what happens. So, right. Okay, so we're only going to do 3 cinemas, 3 things at home. What did we see at home on Netflix this week?
I saw a little mini series.
Yep.
Called the Mafia, the Fear City, New York versus the Mafia.
Oh, okay. This is on Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Netflix one, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. It was one of those things where you're like, ooh, that looks interesting. Oh, I've got something else to do. Oh, that looks like one of the 15 million interesting things.
It was only like, there was like three episodes, you know. Yeah. So it was quite watchable.
All right, cool, good stuff. And so I saw 3-episode, similar thing, 3-episode documentary series on Netflix called HEIST, and not 3 episodes, 6 episodes, but 3 stories. So each episode went over 2. Each story went over 2 episodes. And Sharon, you saw?
I saw The Dry, which is a Sky Originals drama on Sky Cinema.
The Dry.
Yeah.
Like No Water.
An Australian drama with Eric Bana in it.
Ooh, Eric Bana. All right, cool, good. So let us kick off. In that case, we will kick off with Jungle Cruise. Jungle Cruise. Now, this is Sharon. I'm really, really glad that you saw this film, because then you can explain it and I can just react, and and I can just sort of like let my well, essentially, let me put it this way. If you've seen it as well, then I don't have to be partial. Or I don't have to be impartial about it. So, Sharon, tell us, Jungle Cruise, what's this all about?
Jungle Cruise is set in 1916, and it is about a woman who has been denied access to things like the Royal Society, but she has a scientific mind and has a curiosity. And she has heard about a legend of this plant in the Amazon rainforest that can cure all ills, basically. And she wants to get funding to go and explore and find this thing so she can heal the masses of wounded that are pouring out of the First World War. And she doesn't, but she has a sort of a brother who, even though he's not as intelligent, he's a man, and so he can get the funding. So they basically head off to the Amazon to see if they can find this mysterious drug. And then it's something like the African Queen meets Pirates of the Caribbean. Then ensues.
That is funny because that is pretty much my exact. I said exactly that. It was that's my exact description of this film. It's like the African Queen / Romancing the Stone meets Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. Yes, it is all those things. And so basically, Emily Blunt plays this sort of scientific woman, and Jack Whitehall plays her slightly sort of vain brother. Yep. And they meet Dwayne Johnson, who is a riverboat pilot on the Amazon, and they basically employ him to take them up the Amazon to find this mysterious plant that is hidden where no one can find it.
Right. Cool. Well, right. Thank you very much. Now, you see, those of you who might be Disney fans might realize that there is a ride at most Disney parks called Jungle Cruise. The same way that there is a ride at Disney parks called Pirates of the Caribbean. The same way that there's a ride or an attraction at Disney parks called the Haunted Mansion. And ever since Pirates of the Caribbean became like a nonsensical hit, like nobody still understands why that made sense. We made a movie Disney have been trying to replicate this formula. So the Haunted Mansion, they tried that with Eddie Murphy, didn't quite work. And this is the latest attempt to turn a ride into a film or into a franchise. So much so that on Disney Plus, there's a category of movies based on a ride.
Wow.
And you can go through that and you can see all the attempts that Disney have done to get you to spend more money at their parks by doing something on a ride. It's still better than what Warner Brothers did with Space Jam. It's still not as bold-faced, but it's still a bit cynical. And, okay, so that is the basic idea of the film, and we go forward from there. Now, this is one of these films that, I don't know, it's kind of like, I think as you grow older, your tastes change somewhat, and there's things that you start spotting that start bothering you that didn't used to bother you. I'm not sure if that was the case with you guys, well, when it came to like film or anything.
Yep. It absolutely does.
Yeah, and this is a film. Like, I mean, Sharon, you explained it perfectly. You gave the synopsis perfectly. It's a film that I was looking at, and I couldn't. Once I saw when it was set, and I was like, we're going to go to the Amazon, and immediately I had problems. I had problems with this film.
Yes.
Immediately I had problems with this film because there is this whole thing where essentially you have it's just so colonial. That's the thing. It's just so colonial. There's a whole bunch of white English people going to the Amazon to go get something from the Amazon for the benefit of a whole bunch of white English people, and all the people who were originally there, and all the people who were originally there on the land, who've looked after the land, who have nurtured this flower, nurtured all these legends, are a footnote in this film because the white people have something to do, and this might be me thinking way too deeply about a Disney film that is based on a ride. It might be me feeling way too deeply. But from the word go, I was like, ugh. Okay, if you made this film in the 50s, I will probably, like, if I watch The African Queen now, I'll probably have issues with it, but I'll be like, oh, that was then. But if because it's being made in today's day and age, I'm like, you need to in some way address this. You need to in some way give the indigenous people some sort of thing. And but instead what we get is a rollicking adventure. It's good in some places, filled with terrible jokes from The Rock, which are acknowledged to be terrible. They're known to be terrible, but it has a sense of spectacle and a sense of wonder that you haven't really seen since an Indiana Jones film. And another film I'll throw into the mix is The Mummy. This film borrows a lot from The Mummy, from the Brendan Fraser.
Jack Whitehall's character is just John Hannah, isn't it?
It is John Hannah with 20 years on him. It's very, but he's very kind of like, oh yes, I have my dinner suit, and oh, it's time for tea. Where can I find tea in the middle of the Amazon? He's very much like that, and it's so yeah.
Can I just ask something?
Yes, go ahead.
What's the youngest age you think you could take to see this? I mean, is there any scary bits? But they're
tiny children, and when I saw it, there were like 4 or 5-year-olds in it.
I'm pretty sure it's a PG. I'm pretty sure it's a PG.
Cool. I took my niece who's 14, but she's autistic, and so she could be sensitive to things that you wouldn't expect. She was fine with it. She was fine.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. So I mean, there's bits where you have like, this is the Pirates of the Caribbean thing, where you have like cursed soldiers, and one of them is made of snakes, and one of them is made of bees, and one of them is made of trees, and all that kind of stuff. And you have that. So anyway, that's my rant. That was my rant about the film, and it colored my entire enjoyment / appreciation / watching thing of this film. Sharon, what did you think about it? If you're going to,
I must admit, I was distracted as well by the fact that it was set during 1916. I thought there's enough going on at that time that why would you clear off to the Amazon in pursuit of a legend? I mean, I'd rather you spent your time researching modern medicine so that you could help the people on the front. And it had like scenes of soldiers going, see you off on the front, boys. And you think, this is 1916, this is set in. The year of the Somme. And it's like, cheerio, have a nice time at the front. To me, that was in a different tone. But to me, I thought, that is just the wrong tone to set for any film set during 1916.
So
this is 2 years into the war for most people in Britain. And it was, the Isle of Wight had lost 1,000 men by that point in the war. I mean, it was just ridiculous. So I find that horribly distracting. If they'd set it like 1914 and used, I would have been as uncomfortable about some of the colonial aspects, but I wouldn't have been as distracted by the fact that why would you choose that particular period, just to say, oh yeah, we're going to go off to the rainforest. We're going to ignore the fact that 500,000 people are dying this year, and we're going to go and clear off. So I found that really distracting. But going back to the actual content of the film, I think like with the Pirates of the Caribbean things, yes, it's loud, it's brash, but it's too darn long. It's 2.5 hours long, and it's like no one wants to sit on a Disney ride 2.5 hours long.
You see, I didn't notice it was 2.5 hours long. I didn't look at my watch, but I did notice that it was dragging, and I did think you could get rid of this. You could cut that out. You could get there quicker.
Because I think all of the Caribbean films, the Pirates films, should have been at least an hour shorter than they were.
Yeah.
And to me, I could have cut off at least half an hour or more, and it probably would have been the same plot.
Yeah.
So I found it too darn long. But
the effects good?
The character, it was entertaining enough. I mean, my nephew didn't love it because he's sort of a bit older, and he was a bit like, yeah, it's not as good as this and this. But my niece liked it. I sort of think, so if you don't go into it overthinking it, I think you'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah.
But to me, it was too darn long. There were too many bits in it that I was distracted by rather than it adding to the story. And some of the things at the end when they were presenting their findings and some of the scenes, I just found it a little bit, to me, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
In terms of that society and what was happening in that society at that time. And again, when you were saying about the depiction of like indigenous peoples, they used every stereotype in the book, I think.
Yeah.
I think someone had drawn a picture. This is what you think someone from the rainforest looks like.
Yeah.
And then they just threw it all in there.
And that is the thing where I start thinking, I've never been on Jungle Cruise the ride or anything like that, but essentially it is very much a sort of white man's view of the way the rest of the world is. And also there's this whole thing about the rest of the world is our playground for us to do. Anyway, I'm getting I'm getting deep into this thing again.
Yeah.
But I think tone deaf and I mean, all that, but if you can put that to the side, because I understand that not everybody's going to watch this film and going to say and see crimes of yesteryear. Not everyone's going to see that. I would give it a 3 out of 5. But
I would give it a 3, and I would think, again, if you weren't as interested in that period of history, you may not have seen the date and gone, "Whoa, that's an interesting period to set that film in." It might have been less. I might have been less distracted by it, but the fact that they chose that year, I just thought, nah. That is just the wrong year to pick to dress your entertainment on.
Yeah. Well, but again, yeah, I could go on, as you can imagine, but I will stop.
Yeah, so
because we have other things to talk about.
Yeah.
And,
I would give it a 3 too. I would say it's a 3.
And I don't think that. Let me just put it this way: I don't think that this is the last film that I'm going to be having that kind of whinge about or that kind of moan about. Maybe okay. So anyway, we're going to move over to Netflix now. Let Shaun stop from us moaning and whinging because Shaun didn't see it, so Shaun can't join in the moan. Because if Shaun had seen, I'm sure he would have told us about how that pith helmet was the wrong one for the night. I'm sure he would have told us that. Yeah. Possibly. But anyway, so we'll go over to Netflix, and this is what Shaun saw. Shaun, you saw Fear City, New York versus the Mafia. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah. So this is a little bit about a mini-series, and I mean, New York during the 70s and 80s, New York was a pretty damn scary place to be. Really, really was a scary place to be. And I remember my first time in New York, and it was scary, and I had to be really, really careful. I had to watch myself, and there was a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, that was the other stuff. This is the basic story about the Mafia. There's like 5 families. The 5 families, Gambisi, Genovese, and they were practically running the city. They had the city sewn up. And actually, there was a really good film called The Most Violent Year, which I think I reviewed.
With
anyway.
Oscar Isaac, Jessica Chastain.
Oscar Isaac, yeah.
JC Chandler, yeah.
But I mean, that wasn't Mafia. But this is Mafia, actually. It's the 5 families. And then they decided, the FBI and everyone else decided that they would, they'd have to combat this because it was just getting stupid. They had all the unions in their pockets. So there were strikes all the time. They were... they were making loads of money.
Is this a documentary or is it like a fictional thing?
No, it's a documentary. So
okay, documentary, yeah, cool.
So basically it's the story of the FBI. They're bugging the places. They're trying to catch people. They show the organization. So like who's in charge, and they can never get the person who's in charge. It's always the underlings and everything like that. And they managed to get this one meeting where all the heads of the family met at this one place. They managed to get it, and gradually and slowly but surely, they obviously get a few of the underlings and whatever. And so this is really good because you've got, well, not really good, but because you've got some of the old, what we call, like the foot soldiers, I suppose, the ones that do the heavy and the protection and all that. So you've got a couple of these old boys saying, "Oh yeah, well, I was a wise guy," and like you got that, and I used to do this, and we used to do this, and then they've got the FBI people, and they've got the politicians, and what have you, and it's all intersped with old film footage and lots of photographs of all the different characters, all the different people involved, all the surveillance shots, everything, and but yeah, so it's basically the story, and it was quite good. I quite like, because I like that era, it's like an era that I can relate to, I guess. So the first episode was really good. That was sort of setting it all up. The second one was a little bit more in depth and some of the buggins, how they got into the place, how they wanted to do this, so they pretended like the cable company was down, they cut the cable, so how they infiltrated and did the things. But the last episode, I would say, was, well, it was just like Rudy Giuliani, is it, the mayor? It was just like a platform for, oh, look what he's done, how good was this, it was, and it became a bit
especially bearing in mind that Rudy Giuliani is most popularly known now for being Donald Trump's lawyer, who went around after the election spouting things that made it look like he'd forgotten his meds, and having his hair dye running down his face in the middle of a press conference.
But he started off as like a prosecutor, and obviously
he became New York mayor, and he is credited with cleaning New York up a lot.
So this was it wasn't it was interesting, but it wasn't. I think it could have been made a lot more interesting than what it was. It was good. I watched it, and for me, the best part of this was the old footage of like pictures of New York, pictures of the bosses, rather than the FBI. And I like the guys that were the underlings of their interview, because they were like, all right, you could see, they're sort of fairly big. They're old now, obviously a lot older, and they've probably been to prison and they've come out, and you know, they got all the old tats and all that, and they're going, yeah, I was a wise guy, and like, yeah, I used to get like.
It's like, is it kind of like, you know, because I've seen some of these documentaries that they look almost like, you know, Ray Liotta
in
Goodfellas. They're like the real life Ray Liotta in Goodfellas.
Yeah. So yeah,
Henry Hill, the real life Henry Hill, yeah.
I mean, I think I could probably stretch this to a 3. I wouldn't say it was good. The last series, I didn't like the last episode.
Yeah,
I didn't like the last episode much. I started to get a little bit worn down. You know, I guess it's a bit like they could have put it into 2 episodes. They could have put the whole thing into 2 episodes. Yeah. So, and then it probably would have been okay. So, on the whole, I'm going to give this a 3-star.
3 stars.
Yeah.
So 3 stars for Fear City, New York vs. the Mafia. Yeah, I had higher hopes for that because it's a Netflix documentary, and say what you want, I know Shaun and you have said a lot about Netflix's original movies. They do get their documentaries right.
Yeah, they generally do.
Yeah, the Netflix documentaries, they do get those right. All right, cool. So now we go back to cinema, and we have The Boys from County Hell, which is a film that Sharon, I saw on Facebook that you put a picture of you in the cinema alone.
Yeah.
And you were like, not scary at all, watching an Irish vampire movie on my own. So I guess that tells us a little bit about what this is about. But go ahead, tell us, what was The Boys from County Hell about?
That was basically the setup for the whole film. I turned up at a 9:00 screening, and obviously the film didn't start till about 9:30. And I was literally the only one in there. And I've worked out it was a cinema that would seat 250 people quite comfortably. So it was
one of the biggies.
One of the bigger ones. It was just me in there. And they do this one thing that I have to say just made me laugh at the time was at Cineworld on the island, just to make sure you're not recording the films or doing anything dodgy. The staff do come in and check every now and then. You hear the door open, then they walk up to the end and they sort of have a look about.
Yeah.
And they did that once at the beginning of the film, and then about 4 times, literally about 3 or 4 times during the film, I could hear the door open. I'd hear the vroom, vroom, and then no one would appear.
Oh.
So I'd look across to see, if it was a member of staff there looking around, but no one would come. So I think, are you trying to freak me out on purpose? Because I'll be like, who's coming in?
I think the guys who made the film have paid everybody at every single cinema to do that.
Just to go. So I had that as a sensory. It's like sort of like theatre vision. I had this extra sensory experience. But anyway, the film is basically set in Northern Ireland. There's a town called 5 Mile Road, or 5 Mile Hill, sorry, and its one claim to fame is that sometime in the 19th century, Bram Stoker stayed one night in the local pub.
Ooh.
And he was told a legend that in a field nearby there is a cairn of stones under which is buried this ancient evil entity that can suck the blood out of someone by being close to them, and that if you stand too close to this cairn, you can hear the noise of this unquiet thing underneath the ground, and that if you spill any blood near it, it will drain the blood from you. So, and this cairn is about to be demolished because they're making way for a new bypass around, instead of going up and over the hill, to go round the hill and through this field. So this team of construction people are going in there to clear the field and to clear the lane ready for the bypass to go through, and this cairn is knocked down, and then unquiet things start stirring, and then we have a lot of screaming, running, and bloodshed then follows.
All right, cool. So what did you think about it? Extra sensory additions notwithstanding.
Yeah, I thought it was actually quite a good film. I found it quite entertaining. They had lots of humour in it, and a typical Irish way. So there's one scene I thought was particularly, to me, I used to tell my humour. I found this particularly funny. Was you have like this Northern Irish guy who's like a builder, who's like a bit of a, and one of his friends has experienced this sort of devastating loss, which I won't tell you about, and he's sort of sobbing on a chair, and everyone is going like, go on, and he sort of approaches him like with this stiff hand. He's like, you're all right, pal. You're all right, pal. And he just like whacks him on the back. It's like, well, yeah, but he can't bring himself to hug him or anything. And to me, they got the spirit of that, like those sort of Northern Irish people,
Yeah.
spot on.
Yeah.
If you're going to throw a vampire into this sort of Northern Ireland community, yeah, they got the humour right, and they would either reacted the way all the Irish people I've met. I think, yeah, that is the way I think they would react if you suddenly said there's a vampire loose. This is what they would do. There's a few stereotypes about the whole typical sort of drunken Irishman and everyone lives down the pub, but I thought they handled it well with a knowing look. They know their own culture, and it was made, in that setting from someone who's obviously from that community. It had some interesting nods to horror films. I recognised nods from American Werewolf in London, and there's one scene in particular where it's like he's even wearing a blue coat. It's like, this is American Werewolf in London. There's a scene I thought was Wicker Man. There's another one I thought was from Out of Salem's Lot. There were nods to, I think the man who made this film probably grew up watching films from the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
There were nods and references, and if you knew horror film better than I did, you would probably spot an awful lot of references in there, or Easter eggs to horror films. So I thought it was entertaining, I thought it was funny, I thought it was creepy, I thought they used their budget really well, that you didn't see this evil entity too closely for 99% of the film, so they didn't waste their budget on makeup and prosthetics and special effects. They saved the sort of scares to the end, and most of it was just like that creeping people out, which I was already halfway creeped out before the film even started. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It had scare in the right places. It had enough nods to the genre, recognise the cliches, but also try to set its own rules and set its own sort of understanding of what their creature was and how it worked
and what they had to do about it.
Yeah, so I thought it worked well in that it wasn't completely derivative. It did its own. It took a story and then it went, we're going to do our own thing with this.
And it went Irish with it. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how many stars would you give it?
So I would give it a 4. I think it was better than average. It was better than I was expecting it to be. And yeah, I thought it was entertaining, and it deserved probably more of an audience than just me.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I like it when you have sort of how we were talking, I think a couple of weeks ago about Kingdom, Ashen of the North, yes. And how when you have the Koreans, they take something and they go, well, we're going to put our own fantasy zombie thing on it. And I love that. And I think what you tend to have this with Irish stuff as well, whether it's Irish animation or taking a big sort of almost Hollywood trope and then putting an Irish spin on it. And I'm not going to lie, I quite like me some Irish spins on Hollywood. Yeah.
And I thought it did place itself in the north of Ireland as well. So it referenced the PSNI, and it's the Police Service of Northern Ireland. And it wasn't. Yeah, they talked about mass, but again, they had the nods to its own history, nods to their culture, and so I liked it. I thought it was fun. A couple of niggles I thought I couldn't see. My only minor niggle was when they were talking about building a bypass. You normally only build a bypass because the traffic is too heavy for the local area. It's more convenient. And from what I could see, I didn't see a single car go down through this village. No matter, whenever they shot pictures of the village, there wasn't a single car or van or anything going down. I thought, why are you building a bypass? There's no one on the road.
Okay, you know what I have decided? I have decided that people who make films need to hire us as script supervisors and go, hang on a second, what the heck? Shaun will be like, that's the wrong buckle. Sharon will be like, where's the car? I'll be like, racism! For any film that's going, we are available for hire. Okay, cool. So we'll move on. By the way, Shaun, if you wanted to do a second picture quiz, we don't. I've paid for Zoom for this month, so it's not going to kick us off.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're going to do a section.
Right. Okay. Well, it's up to you. It's up to you. Do you want me to go and put another one on? But it'd be totally easy. But we'll do it anyway, and we'll let Sharon go first because this will be. All right. Okay. I'll do that.
Okay. I'll tell you what I'll do. Right. You get it up while I'm doing my next review.
Okay. Cool.
And for those of you listening to this, if you want to know what the heck that was all about, watch us on YouTube. Find us on YouTube, Netflix versus Cinema. Now, Shaun didn't have to go off to change that background, but hey, Shaun has left. He'll be back soon, I'm pretty sure. And I'm going to talk about the thing that I saw at home this week, which is a series on Netflix called HEIST. Now, this is something that I actually quite like the idea of. And what it is, the whole idea behind this is that they take a real life heist and they go back through it and they interview the people who actually did the heist. They find out, look, how did it go? What did you do? How was the planning? And imagine if you took a real life crime. It's a documentary, so you have talking heads and everything like that going on. You have talking heads. It's a documentary, and but it's no. Sorry, Shaun just came back into the room. But I'm talking about Heist, Shaun, which is on Netflix, and it's essentially like it's a documentary, but it's stories about real life heists. But imagine if you took a real life heist and you gave it like almost an Ocean's 11 kind of treatment. So the storytelling in this is very, very good. All the interviews are directly to camera, and it covers 3 heists. Number 1, where about $3 million got stolen in Las Vegas by a woman and her older lover who had her in some sort of voodoo sex magic. Yes, I did actually just say that. And the second one was done in Miami. It was done in Miami by a whole bunch of Cuban Americans who stole a whole bunch of money from a money counting place that had like zero security. It's absolutely, and the funny thing is that the good thing about this series is that what they say about truth being stranger than fiction, you're kind of like, seriously, if you had put that in a film, nobody would believe it. People would think that this is way too far-fetched, but this actually happened, and this is the way in which it happened. And then the third one is it's all about the theft of some bourbon that in Kentucky. It's about the theft of bourbon in Kentucky. It was called Pappy Van Winkle bourbon, and it all disappears. And they talk about how this bourbon is so valuable, it's like liquid gold. And they interview all the different people, and they bring and I think I love the storytelling in this because of the way they bring all these different people together, bring all these different characters, and you get to learn about the characters. You get to learn about the different people, about how the plan came together, about how they did the heist, and also, because they are interviewing the people who did the heist, it is no spoiler to say you also learn how they got caught. You also learn how they got caught. And usually it is not by... Well, it is excellent police work, but it's also stupidity. Stupidity. So, I
like those.
Yeah, no, honestly, Shaun, personally, I think you would love this series. I think you would love it. It's only 6 episodes so far. Each heist is told over 2 episodes. So each is told over 2 hours, 2 episodes. And some of the characters are like, you're like, this cannot be real. This person cannot be real. Mm-hmm. The second heist in the series, my wife was watching it sort of over my shoulder, and she just sort of got drawn into it, and she was like, I want to find out what happens. And there's one character in it that has gotten us to the point where we say, oh, please, for goodness sake, don't do a Jeffrey. Because there's a character called Jeffrey in it, and you're just kind of like, oh my God, this guy... If you had this kind of character in your life, you would just there's no hope for you if you had a Jeffrey in your life. We don't want a Jeffrey in our lives. So yeah, I think it's really, really good. I think the storytelling is so well done. I think I think it's a documentary, but it's done from a very, very filmic point of view. It's almost sort of quite stylized, and I think that the people who've made it, to get some of these people to say the stuff that they say on camera and to be the way that they do on camera, the documentary makers have done a brilliant job. They've done an absolutely brilliant job. So much so that you wonder whether the people you're watching are actually real. And in one case, you might have a good reason to think that, but it's like, is this actually real? Does this actually happen? But yeah, all these 3 heists happened, and it's about the only thing I would say is that one of the heists is not really a heist. It's kind of like the equivalent of somebody taking pens from their workplace and taking them home. It just so happens that these...
right, okay.
Yeah, it's that's what it's like. Like if you worked in a place that had pens and office supplies, you take one. Oh, I took a post-it note home. That's kind of how this comes. It just so happened that the things that they were taking out cost millions of dollars. But the guys who got caught were like, well, everyone was doing it, and that one actually has a particular twist at the end that is so like cinematic. You're like, I cannot believe this actually happened. So Heist, I would give it a 4 out of 5, and I would recommend that you go see it. So Shaun, I reckon that you would really, really like it.
Cool.
And now we go to cinema, and we go for a final film in cinema, and this is Stillwater.
Stillwater, yeah.
A film that has been known because people saw the poster for it and keep confusing Matt Damon on the poster with Leonardo DiCaprio. Because of the goatee and the baseball hat. But Shaun, tell us, what is Stillwater all about?
Okay, basically it's this this Oklahoma oil rig person that works on oil rigs, and is sort of estranged daughter. It comes in at dad daughter again, doesn't it? His daughter, who's sort of estranged, she's in prison for a murder. She's in prison for a murder. So he goes over to visit his.
So that she's in prison for murder in France.
In France, yeah.
Yeah.
So in Marseille, in France. So basically, he goes over to visit. The money he's got. I'm assuming it would be it's the grandmother of the daughter. I'm assuming would probably be his mother-in-law that sort of gives them the money so he can go over. And he goes over and he visits, and he goes in there, and then she says, "Oh, I'm innocent. This is." And she sort of writes a note, and he says, "Oh, I take it to the lawyer." Well, the lawyer's not interested, and so he decides that he tells his daughter, "Oh, what do you know?" And he decides that he's going to try and find this person that supposedly had killed the girlfriend of his daughter. I'm getting confused now. Anyway, basically, he goes to prison, and he's there, and he happens to meet a French lady, and she's got a daughter, and he says, "Oh, I need someone to help me translate because I'm going to go and see these people that were at this party," and he catches the eye of the person his daughter's spoken about. So that gets him in a little bit of trouble because he's a typical Oklahoma American redneck person that's trying to, because the lawyers aren't interested, he's trying to crack the case on his own. So he gets a job as like a construction worker and lives in this basement, and he decides to take the law into his own hands, should we say. I won't say any more than that because that's a bit of spoilers. But the film itself, this is, I think it's a Matt Damon masterpiece. This is the best I have ever seen Matt Damon act. He was totally convincing as an American redneck. Absolutely blew me away. It did, really. I thought, Matt Damon, because Matt Damon can be a little bit hot or cold, and Matt Damon. But Matt Damon. He is class. He is absolutely brilliantly well acted, and so basically he's a little bit thuggish. He's not that intelligent. He obviously was a high school dropout, and he's well built. He's got the typical American baseball cap, and he goes around. He can get a bit feisty, but he's always polite to everybody. It doesn't matter. A mom, he calls him mom, sir, all this sort of thing. But he's very, very, shall we say, just sort of quite narrow vision. So and says things like it is. Doesn't mean to be. Obviously, he strikes up a really, really good relationship with the daughter of this girl, and it's starting to form. Actually, they get together and they get on really well. But then he does something where he takes it all into his own hands, and it's a bit of a compromising position because he takes the woman's daughter out, and then obviously sees something, and it's just terrifically
because his main thing is I've got to save my daughter. Everything else be damned.
I mean, so let's just say you see someone, you're somewhere and you see someone that you think, but you've got someone else's child with you. Who, do you know what is going to be your first preference? But because he's the way he is. It's not. And no, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. This is probably cool. as good as Leave No Trace, I think.
Ooh. So
really. I really was so impressed with this. I probably would need to go and see it again.
Okay, so the thing with this, and obviously it's not a cinema near me, But anyway, the thing with this is that Matt Damon has been complaining, saying that the way they have marketed this film, they've made it seem like it's Taken 7. Like, American guy goes over to France and like is trying to find out what's happened to his daughter and is going to go out for vengeance. But from what you're saying, it doesn't sound like that.
No, it's not like that at all. It's not like that at all.
So no like Taken, no like Death Wish.
It's far superior to Taken. far superior to Taken. Absolutely.
I've only seen clips of it, Shaun, so I haven't seen it yet. My only reservation was, is it sort of using any like real life cases? Because there's obviously the well-known case of like Meredith Kercher in Italy and Amanda Knox, and I was a bit concerned about using like an American, they believe is wrongly convicted, but does the evidence suggest that? Blah, blah, blah. Don't want to go into that case, but are there parallels between that and this?
I mean, I don't really know enough about the Knox case apart from what I don't know that in depth, but I know that so maybe along that, maybe they were trying to be. I did think perhaps there might have been something in that, but in fact, there's probably quite a lot now I think about it. There probably is more. So as I'm thinking towards the end and what happens and how things go on. Yeah, it could be. I didn't equate that at the time, but now you've mentioned it, I can see where you're coming from there. But nevertheless, it is a terrifically acted film. Absolutely brilliant. Loved it.
Cool. How many stars did you give it?
I'll give it a 4. Solid high 4. Definitely.
Solid 4.
In my younger days, I would have given it a super 5, but I mean, that's being a bit exaggerated.
Hello.
But no, it's 4. Definitely high 4.
All right. It all comes down to this. The final film. This is The Dry. And I don't even know if this is a film or a TV series. The Dry. Sharon, you saw this at home on Sky Cinema. Tell us, what is The Dry about?
Dry is a film. It's a film set in modern day Australia, where The Dry refers to. This is a part of Australia where they haven't had rain in this particular part of it for well over a year. They've been counting the days, and it was like in the 300 and something days since they last had rain. And so that does something to a community where this constant dry, it just exhausts people. And into this scene, we have there's been a murder where a man, seemingly, has shot his wife and his son and then shot himself, leaving his infant daughter alone in the house with all the bodies. And then someone comes along and finds this murder scene, and a friend of the family, a boyhood friend of the family, who happens to be like a police officer in the big city, comes back to go to the funeral, and it starts to resurrect memories of a mystery that happened in the past, where there were 4 of them who were teenagers together, and mysteriously one of this close group seemingly killed herself in an accident or in a fit of sort of teenage angst when he was a teen, and he was blamed for her murder or contributing to her death, even though everyone else decided it was suicide. But rumours followed him, and he ended up leaving his hometown. And this is the first time he's been back since that death. And these 2 deaths, the teenage girl in his past and what was his best friend now in seemingly this sort of murder-suicide situation, has basically brought him back to his hometown. And there's some things that he doesn't feel just aren't right. So he starts digging into this current mystery and the mystery of the past to see if the 2 are connected, other than by him. He is like the common denominator. Yep. He is looking to see, what really has gone on in this sort of part of Australia that is, again, it's one of those places where you feel its history sort of lending itself to this quite sort of bleak open landscape where they have these sort of water holes, and you don't know quite what's going on there. There's sort of something ancient about the landscape.
So is it a little bit like an Australian take on Scandi Noir?
Yes, a little bit, but instead of sort of like those long winter evenings, it's like this baking heat that sort of like bleaches everything white, and and exposes everything as well. So it's like with the heat does strange things to people, and the lack of rain has done something to this community. And it's it's one of those, again, I think we've used this a lot today, haven't we? These sort of films set in particular landscapes have their own stereotype. And, you know, in the Australian outback, the stereotype is the man wearing a vest in a truck wearing shorts and boots, and with a sort of an Australian version of a cowboy hat on. So hard drinking, hard living, and a misogynist at heart. You know, it's like the men in the bar and the women, you stay out of the way. And
misogynist, and obviously my word of the day, racist.
Yes. Yeah, there's no... I'm trying to think if there are any references into this to sort of the indigenous peoples of Australia, but there aren't, which is unusual for an Australian film, but not if that's not the story they're telling, you know. The story is about this sort of one man who is linked by these two tragedies and trying to solve it. And it's played by Eric Bana. There's a few other character actors that you'd recognise in it, but no names that you'd go, oh yeah, they're in it. So yes, it was.
Does Hugo Weaving show up as a police officer?
No,
okay.
Not this time.
Okay, cool. Because apparently Sam Neill once sent Hugo Weaving a message saying, Hugo, you need to stop playing police officers. You keep showing up as police officer in all these things. But anyway, carry on.
Yes, so it was it was like an Australian burning hot Scandi noir. So there must be a term for that. We'll coin a term for that, for this. I don't know, oceanic noir or something.
Aussie noir.
Yeah.
I got a feeling I actually started to watch this.
It is based on a best-selling book as well.
Yeah, I think I started to watch this actually. Now you say it, Eric Bana, and something happened and I ended up not watching it. So.
No, that doesn't bode well.
So I can't tell you anything about the ending because it will give it away, basically. But he does successfully solve the mysteries, both of them, and I won't tell you if they're connected or not.
All right.
But he does get to the bottom of it. So it's as a who done it and why done it.
And how many stars?
I think I'd give it a 3. I think it was good. It was well made. It was all competently done. But they didn't pop for me. But it was entertaining. It was good. I watched it with my brother, and we both were speculating all the way through, thinking, "Oh, I think they did it, and I think they did it for this reason." And we both had different theories for who actually did what in both sort of these sort of crime sort of stories, back and forth. And we were going, "Oh, I think they did it because look at that." And we found basically motive, opportunity, and all the rest of it for everyone in the film. So yeah, it was entertaining, but it.
That was well constructed then. In that case,
it was well constructed. Yeah. So I would definitely give it a solid 3, and even a high 3. But yeah, not quite pop. You know, not quite that spark to give it a 4.
Right, and so So we have a 3 for The Dry. Now, I might have bite my tongue just before we actually got to the final round. I might have, because up 2/3 of the way through this, it was a dead heat. It was a dead heat. Before this final round of movies, it was an absolute dead heat where we had both cinema and Netflix had a 3 and a 4 each. And it all came down to the final round. I was going to say that, but I did not want to influence either review one way or another. So, how do you guys think it went this week?
I think cinema pipped it.
Just pipped it, yeah.
By one
cinema
extra
just pipped
star.
Yeah, you are correct. If we look at that, actually, we could just look at it that way. Combined how many stars they got. So there's 11 stars for cinema, and there's 10 stars for 10 stars for Netflix. That might
that was close. It's close.
It was close.
That's pretty good, because I think we had a week where cinema was fairly well represented, and then a week where Netflix
wiped the floor.
Certainly big time. And this week's like getting a bit closer. So as we're going to the pictures more and more, and it seems like it's sort of becoming a bit more of a competition again, doesn't it?
Certainly feels like cinema is picking up its end of the deal a bit more.
Yeah. The quality does seem to be going up, but I still also think that the fact that there's not that many big things out there means that something like Boys from County Hell can come out.
Yes.
and have one person on the Isle of Wight watch it. One person.
Actually, I wouldn't mind seeing it. When I looked at that, I was quite intrigued. So if it's still on, I might try and grab it.
Yeah, it was one of those things. You know how you look through the times and the listings, and I went on the Saturday night because you know how you work out. It's like, okay, no, that's church the next day. No, that's work the next day. That's work. That's the show. So it eliminates how your availability to basically. It's like I go tonight or I don't see it.
Yeah. I mean, I saw. Yeah. Yeah, go on. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say one final thing to say that. Now, we love interaction on this show. We love interaction on this show so much so that we give shout-outs every now and then. And sometimes we give the shout-outs. We don't tell people we've done the shout-outs because we want to see if they listen. So much that my cousin, Taiwo, who he's the one who got in touch to talk about who listens to us on the tube when he's going to work and all that. He got back in touch, but he got back in touch in a very Nigerian way. He didn't get in touch with me. He got in touch with my wife, Claudia, with a message saying, I want to report your husband to you. Because this is the kind of thing that used to happen. When we were kids, people would go and report you to your parents. And he said, seeing as he doesn't live with his parents, I can't report him to his parents, but I can report him to you. How dare he think I don't listen to every episode? So
okay.
Yeah, so Taiwo, I've put this right at the end to see whether you find this one. But yes, okay, cool, fine. That's me told. We have a loyal listener. Thank you very much, Taiwo.
O'Shea.
Yeah. O'Shea. Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that, Taiwo? Did you hear that? You hear that? Look what we're doing here. Sharon just spoke Yoruba. Okay, and she even used it properly as well. Sharon, you don't know how right you were. I will explain it at the point. Because there's a whole thing about if someone is older than you use one word, and if someone is younger than you use another word. You don't know how right you were. But so, and also we want to invite you to come and connect with us. Find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, find us on Instagram. Get in touch with us. Tell us if you think we are talking absolute nonsense and speaking out of our bums for the things that we have spoken about here for reviews. Tell us what you know. And also, if you like us, leave a review on iTunes, wherever you get your podcast from, or Facebook, whatever. But I think that is everything, unless, Shaun, you had something else to say.
No, I don't think I have, actually. I don't think so.
All right, cool.
So, yeah.
So until next week, when we will let Shaun talk about Free Guy, and I think there was Killer Man as well, which is still somewhere in the back.
Oh, yeah, that was Netflix one. Yeah, that's the Netflix one. Yeah. So I'll save that then. So the thing is, the trouble is, I should write down what I watch. Because I do see stuff and then I totally forget. So the only stuff I really remember is the stuff I like.
I'll tell you what, but that's not bad. That's not bad of going about it, the amount of stuff you see. But also I'll tell you what, the viewing history, when I figured out how to find my viewing history on Netflix, it was very, very helpful, because I was like, what did I see? What is that? Right, I did see that. That was rubbish. But
that'd be a good way of finding out who's using your account, because every now and then it says, because you watched this, you might like this. I think, I don't remember watching that.
That's why you got to set up different profiles, Sharon.
I have one for each member of the family. Have got their own, but every now and then they use mine. I think,
because
why am I getting these weird recommendations?
Yeah, because after a while I started getting recommended way too much kids TV because my nephews and nieces were using it. I was like, there is your account. Stay off mine. All right, until next week, where we shall go watch Free Guy, do something, come back, review some films in cinema and at home. It is a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
We will see you guys next week. Thank you for listening all the way to now.